Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's the note to say that I'm gonna call the meeting to order. So what I thought we would do is, the meeting agenda says public comment first. I think it makes more sense for Jeff to give the presentation, and then we comment afterwards, right? And the goal will be to, because we have a board meeting after this, to finish at least 5 minutes to 7 so that we can get set up for the board meeting, so. Yeah, no, but I'm setting up the meeting. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order, and then I'll ask Village Clerk Schmidt if she could take attendance.
Trustee Borowski.
Here.
Trustee Christmas.
She's not here yet, so.
Trustee Michelle.
Here.
Trustee O'Connor.
Here, can you hear me?
Thank you. Trustee O'Reilly. And Trustee Tucci.
Here. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start the meeting. We'll start with that presentation, which I'll bring up. And give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, oops, let me do this first.
Oh, no.
You ready, Jeff? Because you're good.
Ready as I'm gonna get.
All right, hold on a second. Let me bring the right thing up. I'm going to share my screen. I share this. Can you see that? And I can maybe hide this. How's that? Can everyone see this online? Who's here?
Yes.
Anyone want to say anything? Yes? Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Jeff, there's another camera over there, so
Okay.
however you want to look.
Well, I don't know, I'll talk loud so that it registers anyway. So,
Well, let's make sure, can everyone hear Jeff? Village Engineer Perry? Go ahead.
good evening, everybody. Can you hear? Thumbs up, not that you can see, but, there we go.
Yes.
All right, I'll take that as a good sign and we'll get going here. So, all right, so tonight we're gonna talk about traffic calming. I'm gonna give a brief presentation, kind of a recap of some of the prior discussions that, the village board has had, but, I thought it best to put some of the materials into a brief, presentation here for everybody to follow along and for everybody to see online. So, we'd just start here with a quick definition of traffic calming. It's, using physical design and other measures to improve safety for motorists, pedestrians, cyclists. It's become a tool to combat speeding and other unsafe behaviors of drivers in the neighborhood. Aims to encourage safer, more responsible driving and potentially reduce traffic flow. So, this is from Wikipedia. Every once in a while, it's not the most reliable thing, but I've looked at this definition, reviewed it, and it's a pretty good summary of traffic calming. So, some of the previous discussions that we've had, and I'll just kind of recap this as we go through, is discussion of alternate devices and types of traffic control considered on Schaefer and Checker Road. With all of them, there's pros, there's cons. Once we talk about the types, the locations that have been considered, and then just a few additional considerations and wrap up of the presentation. So, Bill, if you would. All right, so what we're gonna talk about tonight is the cut-through traffic that is experienced on Schaefer Road and Checker Road. In the morning, it's northbound Schaefer onto eastbound Checker, trying to avoid the light at Arlington Heights Road and Lake Cook Road. And conversely, in the evening, it's the opposite, again, trying to avoid that light, taking a right-hand turn going on Checker, going south on Schaefer, and then continuing on the way. So the traffic counts that we have bear the cut through out, because on Checker Road, east of Schaefer Road, you've got 2,500 cars a day. That's 2019 traffic counts. West of Schaefer, you've got 1,200 cars a day. So pretty wide discrepancy there. suggesting more use on the east side, and there's not a lot of houses on the east side that would support, you know, those additional 1,300 trips or cars, east of Schaefer. So we've, talked about excessive speed and pedestrian safety. So those are two of the, primary considerations. There's a lot that go into this, but those are the two that, have been, discussed the most. So, as I mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about different traffic calming devices that we consider. The first one is a traffic choker. We've got two images of a traffic choker. There's all sorts of designs and configurations of these. The bottom picture might look familiar. That's Long Grove Road, right at the municipal limits between Killdeer and Long Grove, and that is a choker. That's one lane across the creek crossing there, and you can see in the foreground there a stop sign that's alerting vehicles to alternate stops and take turns crossing that, because the road is only wide enough for one vehicle. So a traffic choker narrows the road, much like the top picture is illustrating. You've got curb and gutter on each side to funnel the vehicles through the choker. Again, alternating stops and turns through there. So some of the pros and the cons, and I know the text is hard to read, but I'm going to go through this, and I do believe that this will eventually make its way on the website, so I wanted to put the information on here for everybody to see. But some of the pros to a traffic choker are, we start with, you know, $25,000 is what we think and estimate it to cost to install that. Traffic choker, even though it's physical improvements on the road, it's a short span and a short footprint area, so if it is deemed to be ineffective, it could be removed. The stopping mechanism that is required by motorists will cause altered driver behavior, and it could cause motorists to abandon the cut-through route and maybe even continue to take the Lake Cook Road, Arlington Heights Road route around and getting to where they need to go either in the morning or the evening. Motorists are familiar with traffic chokers, much like what's on Long Grove Road. There's a similar one on Cuba Road, if you've ever driven that thoroughfare as well. Emergency vehicles can traverse through a traffic choker without any problem. The road is still going to be wide enough that they can get their equipment through there. We did look at what a traffic choker does for speed, and we've done some in-field analysis and actual real-time data and determined there's all of 8.4 seconds that it takes for a vehicle to slow down, stop, and accelerate through a choker. So that will add some time to the cut-through if there was a choker there. There's also, if you've got an opposing vehicle coming at you, you need to wait 6.2 seconds for that vehicle to traverse through there. So if you come up to a choker, it's going to take you 15 seconds to slow down, stop, wait for an opposing car to maneuver through the choker, and then maneuver through there yourself. Traffic chokers also come with cons. A few of them, there's always a potential that a vehicle will fail to stop at a stop sign. The success rate and everything that's been published about how effective a choker is more anecdotal than anything else. So I wish I could rely on some real-time and study from, you know, some prestigious university or somewhere like that that has, hey, the traffic choker is effective on doing this, but unfortunately I don't have that, and that's not available. A couple other cons. A traffic choker is designed more to curtail speed than traffic volume, per the Federal Highway Administration. So that's leans towards, you know, like I said, there's the two, ideas that have been discussed, both the speed and the volume. The choker is, more designed to address the traffic speed. Emergency vehicles, although they can go through the choker without a problem, they would need to stop if there's oncoming cars, so that could slow down response time. And with the traffic choker, with the stops, if there's a backup, you know, it could lead drivers to want to turn around and go back the way they came, seek another route, which could be problematic as well. So that's the traffic choker. The next traffic control device, calming device that we've considered was a speed table. Speed table, the image up here is a gentle ramp, and it's got a flat top on it. The speed table is typically 3 to 4 inches high. The flat top is about 10 feet wide. It's gentle. You go across and go down. Traffic and speed tables also have signage, not so much to stop, but they, you know, slow down because your vertical and the driving sensation is changed with the change in elevation. So there are pros and cons to a speed table as well. Just kind of go through a few of those. I mentioned the traffic choker, $25,000. The speed table, built out of asphalt or concrete, is around $15,000. Again, the footprint is small. If it's deemed to be ineffective, it can be removed and repaved the way the road was before. Studies have shown that speed tables reduce driver speed by 5 miles an hour, so that's going to address the traffic speed. A full stop is not required on a speed table, so that's both a pro and a con when we're talking about traffic volume and speed. Emergency time could be increased because you're slowing down to go over these, but unlike a traffic choker, you're not needing to come to a complete stop. There are temporary options for a speed table. I'll just kind of mention that now, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on here. Some of the cons for a speed table, you know, the results for a speed table is kind of a mixed bag. Some people like slow down quite a bit to go over these things. You know, it's all about the driver comfort as you're changing the elevation of your car. Some drivers, unfortunately, like the maybe the excitement, the thrill, what have you, of going just a little bit faster over it. So studies are 5 miles an hour, but you know, some is more, some is less. A speed table, typically you see these in a series. So if you're looking at curtailing traffic speed or traffic volume, you may want to consider multiple of these, especially, and I'll go through it later, you've got a half-mile stretch between Schaefer and Arlington Heights Road, excuse me, so pretty long expanse, so maybe 2, maybe 3 of these may need to be considered, which drives up the price. Snow plows can damage the speed tables, and as vehicles go across, you know, shocks and things like that move around and can create the ka-thunk, and you get road noise with those. So that's a little bit about the speed table. The next thing that we can, traffic calming measure that we considered was a speed hump. This is very similar to a speed table in that it's a rise of about 3 to 4 inches typically, but you can see that this is much shorter than a speed table. It does not have the flat top, and the incline and decline on each side is slightly steeper. This is not a speed bump. This is a speed hump. A speed bump is much more abrupt if you've ever driven through, you know, I see them most often in parks. And for the Federal Highway Administration, a speed bump is not a recommended, traffic calming device on a collector road, which, Checker Road is, and Schaefer as well. A collector. Yep. So, moving on, some of the pros and the cons of a speed bump. Pros are, we're going down in price. We started at $25,000 for the choker, $15,000 for a speed table, $7,500 for a speed hump. Again, this is removable. As you can see, this is a temporary version. These can also be constructed in asphalt or concrete. And these result in at least a speed reduction of 5 miles an hour. Say at least, that's what, the studies and all that stuff said. Probably gonna slow down a little bit more for a speed hump versus a speed table. Cons to a speed hump, again, going back to the length of Checker Road or Schaefer Road, considering multiple of these is typical given that length of road. Speed humps could delay emergency response time. There's a lot of jarring that goes on when you're traversing one of these in driving a car, which results in road noise. And if you're going too fast, it could result in loss of control of a vehicle as well. And then snow plows and these things and speed humps typically don't get along. So a couple other things that we had were increased patrol. This is, more police officer enforcement and presence over there. So don't have a picture for this one. Didn't decide which police officer to put up there, so we'll just go with the text here. But this is a pro of this is it gives you a visual of enforcement, and you need to slow down. The biggest con to this is once the enforcement is no longer present over there, drivers tend to revert back to their prior tendencies. No physical change of the roadway with those other traffic calming devices that I mentioned. So, that's also a con because anytime the road changes, whether it be horizontal or vertical, that's what gets a driver's attention, and it's that sensation of a vertical, horizontal change that slows somebody down. With increased signage, you don't have any of that. Next slide, we've got signage for like a speed radar sign. So those are easy to install. You can move those around to avoid, the corridor becoming, stale with, knowing exactly where that sign is. Again, there's not a physical change of the road, which is kind of a drawback. Signs like this, unfortunately, vehicles can ignore them, and if there's too many signs, you can easily get into the neighborhood of signage clutter. Again, if you've got too many signs, you're not paying attention to anything.
Like our bridge?
Yep,
Okay.
downtown. So, I did mention at the bottom of this, there's options for solar-powered electronic speed signs. Those are about $3,000. So those were...
Do they make things like that that can actually use red light cameras?
Red light cameras?
Like the sign that has WD that also could capture?
They do.
Yeah, but we can't ticket it, we can't use it. Illinois state law.
Why is that?
We're prohibited by Illinois state law from doing that. The city of Chicago can, we cannot give tickets, for speeding tickets.
The city of Fox
You
River?
have to be home rule for that.
We're not allowed to.
It's a home rule thing?
Home rule thing, yeah.
Okay, so it's not the city of Chicago, it's a home rule thing.
No, I think it's a little bit more than that. There's also, I've researched the state law, and Vic can pipe in on it, but,
Okay, then
yeah,
Chicago-
there's a little bit more law behind that, too. No, they're talking about, electronic, having it done electronically, like a...
You're saying we can't issue.
No, we can issue plenty of tickets, it's just we can't do it, the idea was have like a red light camera giving speed tickets like they are in the city of Chicago. Yeah, that's what Trustee Kritzmeyer was suggesting.
Does it have solar thing could have that same
Right.
capability.
Okay, so we'll go through a couple of the different, location options. Obviously, there's, like I said, it's a long stretch of road, so, picking a spot is, there's a lot of options out there, but they all got pros and cons as well. So the first option that's considered is just about halfway between, Schaefer and Arlington Heights Road. So you've got about 1,800 feet on each side, roughly a quarter mile on each side. So this is halfway between. Got pros and cons to it. A good pro to it is it addresses traffic from both directions. It's halfway on each side. The other thing is you can't see this, if you put a traffic calming device here, you can't see it from either when you turn from Schaefer or turn from Arlington Heights Road. So, you know, if you're driving in there and you get to the stopped cars at a traffic calming device or the slowed down cars, you're kind of in there. So, you know, there's not a lot of opportunities to turn around at that point.
Jeff, is this option number one? Mm-hmm.
Yep, location number one. And I will note that the exhibit, the image here, you know, shows a traffic choker at this location. Any of the traffic calming devices can be considered here as well. A couple cons to this one: you can still reach high speeds on either side of the traffic calming device. Again, you've got a quarter of a mile on each side. And this particular location, we discovered a nuance here that the property just to the northeast is actually in Vernon Township. Long Grove doesn't own and maintain it, so we'd need just a little bit of cooperation with Vernon Township to put some of the signage required for this. Location number two, we moved this 500 feet west, so you're still 1,300 feet east of Schaefer. So you're a little closer to the residential area, right at the intersection in the corner of Schaefer and Checker Road, which is still almost a quarter of a mile from there. So, Bill, if you will, the next slide just has a couple pros and cons to this one.
Which one are you talking about, two?
Number two,
Yep.
correct. As I mentioned, this is nearer to the residential areas, so a lot of the concern and a lot of discussion leading up to tonight has been the traffic safety and speed in that particular area. So if you put the traffic calming device closer to there, you'll have a more impact to the speed, particularly. The con to this one is Pheasant Run is very close to this location, so if a motorist is coming, you know, from the west and there's stopped cars or slowed down cars, they may get the idea in their mind that, hey, I'm going to use Pheasant Run to turn around, which creates another undesirable condition. The third location that we considered moves the traffic calming device even closer to Schaefer Road. This particular location is 700 feet east of Schaefer. Again, one of the pros to this is it's right in the thick of the, go ahead and move to the next one, right in the thick of the residential area, right at Schaefer and Checker. But it is also near some driveways which could promote, like I mentioned, you know, turnarounds if the drivers are getting anxious, or, you know, if there's also stopped cars or slowed down cars, they could be blocking those driveways as well. So,
If it wasn't a choker, however, if it was a speed table or speed pump, that part would be irrelevant.
you might still get from time to time, you know, backup cars because they're slowing down, but it's going to be much less, you're right. Yep. And then the final location that we looked at was on Schaefer Road. A couple of years ago, the Forest Preserve District installed a walking trail that actually crosses Schaefer Road. And this traffic calming device is right there, so it's a good location This image shows a choker, but again, any of them could be there, but like a speed table or a choker, you know, that gives also doubles as a place for pedestrians to cross the street. A con here, and probably point out the obvious, it's not on Checker Road, which has been a lot of the discussion up until now. So while it is on the cut-through route, it's not on Checker. This is also not, whoops, go ahead.
This is the one we said could back up on Lake Cook.
Correct. Yep, certainly could.
How close is this to Lake Cook?
200 feet.
Go back one more slide.
Not that close. It's not that close.
It's 1,800 feet south, it's over 500 feet. Okay? And this, in Schaefer Road in this location is not owned and maintained by Long Grove. It's owned and maintained by Vernon Township, so we would need cooperation with them to install it, whether that be approval to do it or cost sharing. That's probably a future discussion. So, go ahead to the next slide. One of the other things that we had talked about and considered was what are the other options to actually putting a physical traffic calming device made out of concrete or asphalt on the road. And as I mentioned, and you kind of saw in some of the pictures, there are temporary options for all of these. A traffic choker, you know, you've seen and may have seen the concrete Jersey barrier, like on a roadside in a construction zone or something like that. Those can be positioned and fashioned into a choker. Also, if you remember when the covered bridge was not covered, there was orange water-filled Jersey barriers that could be fashioned into a traffic choker as well. Did a little research on costs for that. With a beta test, you want to test that for at least a week, probably closer to 2. And a concrete Jersey barrier, those things are rented, and a rental for 2 weeks is $8,000
Is that for just one?
for the series of them
Ah.
that you need. For the series of them you need. And the water-filled Jersey barriers, the village still has most of those that were used when the cover was not in place. They're over at the water treatment plant, so if we want to use those, it's having the township move those into place, fill them with water, maybe supplement them with a couple other ones. They've been sitting there, and Mother Nature has probably taken its toll on them, so I can't tell you if 100% that they all hold water today, so.
Jeff, we're 30 minutes in.
Okay, real quick.
Thank you.
And then, temporary pavement markings, again, fashion those like a choker, you could do that as well. That is less than $1,000, even $500. Temporary speed humps, rubber versions of the image that you saw before, $2,500 per each of those. A speed table, saw a rubber version of those as well, and that is $5,000. So there's a lot of options, and there's a lot of things to be considered. There's no easy solution in this. I think it was mentioned before that if there was an easy solution, it probably would have been in place by now. So, considering all of this, let's kind of wrap it up with looking at the issues at hand. Our office would recommend a traffic choker at the second location, which is not exactly halfway between Schaefer and Arlington Heights on Checker. It's the one that's 500 feet west of there. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board for discussion.
Well, I think I'd like to open it up, if you're okay with it, for public comment, right? So now that you saw the presentation, if you could announce your name, and if you can give your address, that would be great. And then please try to limit it to 3 minutes. Sir?
You had a couple questions. My name is David Myers. I'm at 1860 Pheasant Run. One of the concerns one of the comments there, people might turn around and they have these chokers, but I think that's the benefit, Because once you do that once, you're not gonna cut through again, because you realize it's not gonna save you the time that you think it's going to. One other question I had, because I missed the meeting, was the Arlington Heights Road work that's gonna be done. Is there any chance to get a two-lane left turn from Lake Cook Road onto Arlington Heights Road? If you make more turns available and more cars going through from Lake Cook onto Arlington Heights Road, then there's no real reason to cut through. I mean, everyone's trying to save the time. I will say though, even if you do that, some speed or barrier needs to be done on Checker, because there's a lot of people who aren't cutting through, who look at it as a speedway. And for the signs, I try to do 30, and sometimes I get yelled at, honked at, cussed at. And that's, but I do like the idea of the choker and stop signs to go with it. But I think if you don't put the stop sign in, I think that's a problem. Even if it's a temporary, so we can need a stop sign.
And if I'm interpreting you correctly, you favor Checker Road, not State Road.
Absolutely, because that's where the speed is, even if you're not cutting through it.
Hey, Jeff, the double left turn lane's not being considered right now with that project, correct?
Yeah, it's not, so Arlington Heights Road is a county road. They're gonna resurface that in a couple of years. Improving that intersection's not part of that project, but I will mention that Buffalo Grove and the Cook County Department of Highways is beginning the process to evaluate that. Unfortunately, that process takes years.
Good. Addresses with them, and the concerns that we have to push that along, because anything takes years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Yep. And we've already begun those.
Arlington Heights is one jurisdiction, Lake Cook Road is another jurisdiction. Believe me, I put in the Arlington Heights comments, please address that.
No, we've been talking about this for years and years and years, and realizing the problems that Lake Cook Road creates for from a maintenance area.
David, thanks for your comments. Anybody else in the room? If you wouldn't mind stating your name?
I'm the Arlington, Steve Holland, I live on Shepherd.
Yep, thanks, Steve.
Because, I listened to that Arlington Heights Road presentation, and I think the right turn lane is gonna be at Lake Cook. That'll help a little bit.
For southbound Arlington Heights Road onto Lake Cook. Yes, right now there is a right turn lane there. They're gonna expand it, and it's just over 1,000 feet.
So that'll help.
That'll be the length of that.
That'll help a little bit, because that'll, maybe some people won't cut through on Checker going south on Arlington Heights Road. I wanna make sure there is no possibility of prohibiting turns at Arlington Heights and Checker.
We've asked that question, right? So, where are we at with?
Yeah, I had a meeting with Lake County Department of Transportation as well as the village manager over in, Buffalo Road to come up with a joint solution, and they said it was something that they could certainly look at. The problem is, if you do no left turns and you do it on a certain period of time, let's say peak hours, is the enforcement mechanism of it. They've said that, when they look at prohibition of turns, that, depending on where they're at, people will violate them just as easily as going through a stop sign, so.
One other comment, nobody speeds on Long Grove Road until here. Why? Here.
Oh, excuse me.
So they were testifying.
I live there. It's a speedway.
I've been tapped on it twice in the last
It's a
month.
speedway. I get the finger all
I'm
the
very
time.
surprised because when I'm driving on it, everybody's creeping because it's usually enforced.
Because there's a squad there, but the squads are not as frequent as.
Anyway,
I hope everybody
point
thinks
is-
that.
the point is to consider, at least for a period of time, adding policing on Checker Road.
I think we've done a little bit of that already, Steve, but,
Well, I'd like to know how many other locations there are in the village who have exactly the same problem. So we could maybe triple, quadruple our police department, so that we could have some, a squad car on on Indian Creek, on Diamond Lake Road, on Checker, on 22, on Cuba Road, you name it.
You need to preface your comments when you're being sarcastic.
Oh,
I thought you were serious.
I am serious.
Yeah. You want to triple this, please, for us?
Well, if this was, if we need, and want police on every road, yes, then you can't have one without the other. And so we have to recognize a sense of fairness and know how many locations in the village, and we are not unique to having this problem. Everybody has this problem.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Hi, Terry Crowley. I live at 1707 Edgewood Lane, which is just west of the intersection. About 25-year resident. Seen the traffic grow from nothing to a lot. Couple questions on the whole thing. I'm not decided on what I want to do yet or what I recommend you guys, but the study showed 200 cars between that 6 and 8 a.m. period. Is that what the study showed? No. How many cars go between 6 and 8?
Between 6 and 8, the peak hour?
Yeah.
Go ahead, and I'll look it up.
Okay. So, it also showed, the study showed the average speed was like 24 to 25 miles an hour. I assume you measured the distance it took, Arlington Heights Road to Lake Cook, divided it by the number of seconds to get the speed.
Correct.
It did not, it added in the delays, and it came up to about 24, 25 miles an hour. It's not speeding. There's a few cars that speed. You're gonna get that anywhere, like Bobby said. Speeding is a problem in every town. It's especially a problem here in Long Grove, because everybody who travels that route knows we don't have a police department. So they can speed down that road. The second thing I would want to talk about is, out of those cars that go from 6 to 8 and also 4 to 6, how many are local residents? Less of that subdivision. Country Club Estates, Country Club Meadows, Edgeworth Downs. They're all going to be inconvenienced by these chokers. That area does not affect them. As far as they don't see the speeding, I don't see the speeding. I drive 30, cars back up behind me, I kind of laugh. It's kind of an adventure for me, I think. But all the people in Country Club Estates, it's now going to be an inconvenience for them to leave the neighborhood. Have we talked to them? Have we done a study to say, hey, what do you guys think about these chokers? The homes on Checker, feel sorry for you, but it's about 10 houses. Right on the road. We got 10 houses, we've got 200 homes in Country Club Estates. So we're taking care of a few, and we're missing the Country Club Estates, Country Club Meadows, who use that area to get out to the grocery store, to go to work and so on. Saturday and Sundays, the traffic dies down, I still gotta deal with that choker. It's an inconvenience now for me as a driver in that area, okay? I think the best area would be on Schaefer. Okay? Come off Lake Cook Road, you've been sitting there for 30 seconds, you wanna get going, you hit that choker. That's an inconvenience for somebody. Maybe that changes their mind, I'm not sure, okay? But Checker, I don't know, I just, it's a major road for people to get out of that neighborhood, and you're gonna inconvenience them, and we've not talked to one person or talked to any kind of survey to see how people feel about it. I think that's you do a temporary one, but then you gotta do a study and say, hey, what do you guys think of the choker? Was it a pain in the butt? If it was, let's get rid of it, because it really didn't solve our problems, and it inconvenienced the people that live there.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that.
Did we, Country Club Estates?
Invited the homeowners
Yeah.
association.
We may have some folks online here that have some comments too, so we'll see who's, anyone else have a comment in the room?
Karen Schulteis? Oh,
Yeah, hold on a second, Karen, thank you.
The inconvenience of 15 seconds for each car that might pass through there. I think that minor inconvenience, if it protects Checker Road for everyone, including the damage to the road from the excessive use that is being happening from, the cut through. I think it's a benefit to the village as a whole, and protects the people who use that for bicycling, for walking, for a lot of different things. I think there's a lot of advantage to working on Checker Road and that way.
Okay, no, thank you. There was one other comment in the room. I know Karen is asked to speak. If you want to go ahead, sir. You were going to speak? Yep.
It's Charlie Cardella. I live at 1237 Antietam. I live on Schaefer Road. I'm on the North Checker Road. Country Club Meadows is our neighborhood. There's 65 of us families that are in there. I believe you brought up an excellent point. I daily travel that Checker Road, Checker Road, twice a day. I totally agree with your comment. I don't want to choker there at all. And I also agree with your comments. You're exactly right. We belong to Farmington Bath and Tennis. I always go 25 miles an hour on Long Grove Road because of the enforcement. My recommendation to the board here is that you must look at this as a long-term fix. What it can be like in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. I know I'm in the minority living in Long Grove. People are avoiding this because there's no 53 going north. I know that's a conversation for another time right now, but whatever this board does, I would encourage you to do something that is temporary. I also agree that enforcement, in my opinion, enforcement would be one of the very first things, maybe lower the speed limit. Maybe the speed, is not the speed limit on Checker Road right now, Jeff? Is it 25?
30.
Okay, 30. So maybe that's the first place you start, is that you go to 25. I also agree with your opinion that I think it's enforcement, that you place police there. Regarding safety, one of the major things, I'm a huge bike rider, as are many people in Long Grove. This is a much more expensive solution, but you need a path next to Checker Road that could be for walking and for bike riding. Once again, that is much more expensive. And the bike path that was put on Schaefer Road in Country Club Meadows and south in Country Club Estates are jokes. I mean, what was put in when Menards went in and the money that this board got from Menards to put, I believe that's where the pathway came from. They're inadequate, they're half gravel, they're unsightly. So whatever you do for safety concerns, I would do a first-class improvement that is, in my opinion, south of Schaefer Road. And once again, as a minority here, everyone is avoiding not 53 going north. And how to cure Long Grove long-term is that this board starts supporting a realistic idea of saying, hey, let 53 go through Route 60. That is when all the neighborhoods in Long Grove will realize real relief. Obviously, that would be a 10-year program. So anyways, I want to thank everyone on the board for serving here. What you do is fantastic. Thanks for serving us in our community.
Thank you. Thanks, Charlie. It was Karen Schulteis first
Yes.
that spoke, and I know. Go ahead, Karen.
I'm sorry, it's just a short comment at 1492 Schaefer Road, and I just want to commend you for looking at ideas, and you said Pheasant Run, where you're trying not to have people escape the anything that you put up by turning down streets and then sort of looping around. I don't know which is the best solution. I'm actually going to bring this back to our homeowners rep, but again, this since I've been here, I haven't heard this much information and the ideas that are a little bit more beyond just putting up signage or just, I know we need police enforcement, but more than that. So thank you again. I'm glad I was part of this. I want to get it back to some of the people, and I don't know what the final outcome will be, but it's very interesting.
Thank you, Karen. I'm not sure who raised their hand first. I see Allison in front of me right now. I don't know if, who had their hand up first?
Norman Mark.
Who is it?
The top left and the next one.
So it was Mark Locascio?
Norbert had his hand up first, I think.
Norbert, okay, go ahead, Norbert. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. So Norbert Krupa, 1865 Pheasant Run. I live directly at Checker Road. I had a few questions for the board. First is, what is the total available budget for calming options?
Right now, as presented, it's 25,000 in one line, 15 in another.
Did you hear that?
I got 25,000. I did not catch the rest.
15. We've got two separate lines in the budget for traffic calming, 25, and I believe the other one's 15, Norbert.
Great, thank you. And what is the timeline for the board to make a decision and then implement a calming option?
We don't have any set.
Yeah, we don't have a set timeline yet.
We've had a lot of people coming in and obviously voicing, and so having this public comment was trying to get as wide of an opinion as possible.
Okay. So on the topic of putting a choker along any part of Checker Road, is there going to be any funding provided to the residents for homes to build up forms of privacy, whether it's going to be in landscaping or any other methods?
No, that was not considered.
Okay, just a few other comments, just listening to the audience, and I'm not trying to minimize the concerns of the other residents that spoke, but for those that are living directly on Checker Road that have to wait in the morning for traffic to pass just to pull out to get on Checker Road, for those of us that have kids that are waiting at bus stops, it's no longer safe for our kids to wait there because the vehicles do not stop for the buses. We've already talked about cyclists. There's wildlife that is continuously crossing Checker Road throughout the day. It is not just the residents that are impacted directly, but again, from a safety perspective, it's the speed. The choker that's proposed, I don't feel that it will help minimize the speed on either side of it. And if the recommendation is to put a choker, my preference would be that we pilot it first, because if the budget was 25 plus 15, I would prefer to use a assortment of options to try to maximize the efficacy of traffic calming. Thank you.
Thanks, Norbert, for your comments. I'll let, if it was Mark or Allison was next.
Since I don't
Let
want
you
to sleep
speak.
on the couch tonight, I'll let Allison go first.
Thanks, Mark. I want to address what Mr. Crowley said, and as far as it being an inconvenience goes, most neighborhoods do have stop signs, and it's a very typical thing. To have any kind of calming on Checker or Schaefer doesn't just affect the 10 homes living on Checker Road, or that are on Checker Road. It is the usability of the area, especially with Buffalo Creek Forest Preserve now, in full force, and the amount of pedestrian traffic we have in that area. There are no shoulders on Checker or Schaefer Road, so we have to use those roads in order to get to the Forest Preserve or anywhere else in the area. Forgive my dog. And, having that amount of the volume of traffic or and speeding in that area, it's a little different than just an inconvenience. It's a dangerous situation. Norbert is a neighbor of mine, and he has little kids that I'm sure he would love to take for a bike ride. That, who wants to risk your life to try to use your area and be able to take advantage of the forest preserve that you move towards to utilize. So it is not a matter of inconvenience. People stop at stop signs all the time. If you take that road twice a day and you have to stop twice a day, if you're going 25 miles an hour, it's really not that inconvenient. It's a benefit to the area and for the usability of the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Who is next? It's got the Crowleys.
I think that might be me.
Okay, please, yeah, go ahead and speak.
Yeah, hi,
Please.
this is Mark Locascio, at 1850.
Oh, it's Mark, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
hi.
yep.
At the corner of Checker and Schaefer. And just a couple of quick comments. So first, I believe it was David who mentioned that it was listed as a con that people might have to stop and turn around with a choker. And I see that as a pro. I think he mentioned that as well, because I don't think that kind of habit is going to continue. If somebody has to turn around and it delays them further, that's the last time they're going to take that route, if it's something that they know they're going to face continually day after day. The second thing I would encourage is that the board focus on the safety issue, because as Allison had mentioned, we're not talking about convenience here. We're talking about, we use these roads as well, and everybody can still freely use the road. And if they have to be delayed by 15 seconds, and they use the road twice a day, I mean, I think that's a fair compromise in order to have safety for the residents, for the children, and for the wildlife, as Norbert had mentioned. So I would encourage that, the focus be on safety over convenience. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Mark Locascio, appreciate it. Who's the Crowleys? Which was that?
Yeah, there's another Crowley. We've multiplied, so I apologize.
Got it. Any relation or?
Yeah, he's my father. Yes, we actually look alike too, which is scary.
You all live in the same house, do you?
No,
Okay.
I live at 1225 Manassas Lane, which is just off Schaefer on the north end of Schaefer. And I just had really two questions, and those were, what's so specific about this intersection compared to Old Hicks, compared to Schaefer on my end, different parts of Long Grove? Are we going to start putting chokers everywhere to address issues? Because there's a lot of streets, there's a lot of speeding, and people, they do not stop for stop signs. So my second point is, I can see this stop sign at Schaefer from my house. I have video cameras for security reasons that point at the stop sign. And I have hours of video of people blowing that stop sign, not at 10 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour or a rolling stop. I see people blow it going 30. So I don't think just because you put a choker in, people are going to stop for the stop sign. If there's no oncoming car, the same people who don't stop for stop signs now and speed or can continue not to stop for stop signs and speed. So unless there's going to be an enforcement increase, I'm not 100% convinced that putting a choker in is going to solve the issue. And then, I just like to hear the board's viewpoints in other streets. Are they going to do this on Schaefer, or north side of Schaefer? Are they going to do this on Old Hicks? Are they going to do this at different parts of Long Grove? I mean, 3 weeks ago, unfortunately, I think a family died at Schaefer and Manassas in a huge accident. Obviously, that intersection is really dangerous. I mean, if you try to turn left onto 53 off of Schaefer during rush hour, you are playing Russian roulette, because accidents there happen all the time. As far as I know, no one's died at Checker and Schaefer. But people have died at Schaefer and Old 53, but no one seems to complain or think that's an issue. Thank you.
No, we think that's an issue too. But anyway, thank you for that. We're trying to get the speed slow down there, so, with the state. But thank you for your comment. Other public comment? I think that's us.
I have one, if that's okay, if I can just chime right in. Just in regard to the last comment about nobody dying at Checker and Schaefer, there was a girl who was hit on her bicycle by a car. And there was another incident where there were 3 school children getting off the bus that narrowly avoided an accident because one of the residents, a father of one of the kids, happened to be driving, coming home at that time, and literally pulled his car in front of the other car that would have hit these kids. So there have been incidents, and fortunately no one has died, but this is an unsafe situation.
Yep, Terry, go ahead, you had a comment?
Like, my own comment would be, I'm willing to try anything at that area, but it's gotta be temporary until we see if it works. I don't want us to rush in, put a cement barrier in there, spend $25,000, and then we have a big fight of ripping it out later when it didn't work. So try it. I don't want to see anything near Schaefer and Checker. Cars back up there, you can have this huge amount of cars backed up around the corner, the Schaefer, getting out to Checker. You'll have 10, 12, 15 cars during rush hour sitting there. That's in front of my house. I don't want to see that, just like they don't want to see those cars on Checker. I'm willing to try it, but we've got to do a temporary thing, ask people in the neighborhood, because this affects a lot of people besides the people that live on Checker. Ask them how they feel about it. And last that I checked, majority rules in the United States. So, take a survey and try to figure out what really people are thinking.
Thank you, Terry. Allison, I saw you raise your hand again, so. Yep. Yep. Yeah, we're gonna finish up here in a minute. Allison, one last comment, and then we're gonna close the meeting.
So Bill, I was wondering, I know there were some comments submitted to the board through emails and things like that. And I'm wondering if anybody from the board was going to read those to the rest of the group so that they do understand the opinions of other people that weren't able to make the meeting tonight?
Yeah, all those notes are posted on our public website for anyone to view. So they're out there.
And they have been distributed to all the board members.
And the board members all got them too.
If I could add a point for people to observe after this meeting, you can try to go by one of the 3 schools in this town at end of day, and you will see the hazards, the danger that people are in because what happens. And I go by 3 of the schools on a daily basis. They get their child, they get to the street, and they gun it. And perish the thought you should be in their way. So I would suggest you take a look.
Yeah, so I think we have the next meeting coming, the board meeting coming for the 7 o'clock meeting. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Thank Village Engineer Perry for taking us through this. I appreciate all the public comment that was shared. We'll take that into consideration. We do have a live item on the agenda to talk about it later. I don't know, where we'll be at later tonight, but it's a serious issue and it's something we're looking at, and I thank everyone. So with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Okay, it was moved by Trustee O'Reilly, seconded by Trustee Borowski. Roll call, please.
Trustee O'Reilly.
Aye.
Trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Trustee Chris Meyer. Aye. Trustee Michaud. Aye. Trustee O'Connor. Aye. And Trustee Tanucci.
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned, and we're going to start the next meeting in a couple minutes. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Long time, babe. I know.